All right, first order of business, is my Madonna / Britney Spears microphone working? This one? No? No dice? Anybody? Help me out. Am I just going to have to go projection, as if we're in some sort of choir? Okay, yeah, but that was tough. I guess I'll go, so this is more of a lounge singer kind of vibe. Like I might just sort of do this a little bit more than I had planned. All right, we'll just dump was my Madonna reference too old? You guys didn't get that? And Britney Spears was also too old? And I should have gone Rihanna, maybe, for the headset microphone? We'll drop the headset microphone. We'll not worry about that. All right, so first of all, a lot of people will tell you when they come to talk to you that they're really happy to be in a place, right? And most of the time they're lying. I, though, am really happy to be here. I'm from Kansas, and where I live, Los Angeles, doesn't make a lot of sense to me a lot of the time. And I kind of want to illustrate that for you with this short little talk, or this short little anecdote. So as my esteemed senator, they introduced you as if you were the only senator. Is that true? Only business. Okay. They made it sound like you were the emperor. He's the senator for the entire college. So the emperor introduced me, which was nice of him, and said that I run this writer's workshop in Los Angeles. This writer's workshop is called Writer's Block. It ends in a K because I'm super creative. And it works as such. People come and they pay me $7, and then I give them wine and they get coffee, and then they get to sit down and work for a couple of hours and be uninterrupted. And then we have a very nurturing circle where people talk about who they are, and they explain how strange they are and what brought them to this writer's workshop in the first place. So anyway, at the start of the writer's workshop, I sit behind this table and I greet people, and then at this table is a cup full of wine for each person on a little plate. And I wait for them to come in, and one night, as I had gotten a few people into this restaurant where we hold the thing, this very bearded and burly, sort of homeless looking guy comes knocking on the door. But I don't want to judge him just because his beard is unkempt and not hipster approved like mine. I don't want to think this guy's necessarily the worst person in the world, although that's the conclusion that I'm jumping to. I'm thinking about, there's always the story about the farmer who comes to the Chevy dealership and leaves with a Corvette. Like, you shouldn't judge people based on how they look. So I say to him, "Sir, what can I help you with?" And he says, "What's going on in here?" And I'm like, "Well, this is a writer's workshop, as I just described to all of you." And he goes, "Writing? I used to do some writing." And I think, "Oh, congrats, Paul. Maybe you found the next Charles Bukowski. Like, your tolerant attitude has come through." But then he storms past me and he grabs a cup of wine and he just destroys it. And I think, I don't care if he's Charles Bukowski. I have to take care of this dude because I don't want him interrupting all of these very nice and pacifist writers who are back here working. So I'm thinking to myself, what am I going to do if I have to get this guy out of the writer's workshop? Am I going to have to like slam him into the window or slam him into the wine? That would make a mess and that would disturb everyone behind me. I don't want to do that. But what's really going through my head is that I'm not sure any of this is real. And that's because of something that happened to me 3 days before. I was in this farmer's market in Culver City, which is close to where I live. Keep in mind, short note about me, I hate farmer's markets, but I'm willing to brave some hippies if it means that I can get some good kale occasionally. Plus, it's like 50 feet from my doorstep. So I walk down to the farmer's market, and as I'm walking through it, this woman stops me and she says, "Excuse me, you," and I think to myself, here we go, because in case you couldn't tell, you may not have, because the emperor and I are actually the same height, so it doesn't seem like I'm very tall, but I'm super freaking tall. So what people say to me when they stop me is, "Wow, you're really tall." So I'm expecting that, but she says, this 50-year-old woman, "Wow, you're really handsome." And I think, geez, this is strange, because nobody ever talks about it. I'm a sucker for someone saying that I'm good looking. So at the lunch later, if you're one of those last two people, just, say something about how attractive I am and I'll be happy with you. Anyway, so she said this, and I'm texting someone that this has just happened, and then another man walks up to me and says, "Excuse me, son, can you help me?" He's about 60 years old, and I say, "Of course, because I love old people. They're really nice." And he says, I need to send a text message to my wife, but I don't know how to use my phone. And I think, well, yeah, old people don't know how to use technology. This makes sense. I can do this. He hands me his phone, and he says, here's what I need you to tell her. It's all dialed in. Just type out the following. I've had this Woody, he uses the word Woody, for 5 hours, and I'm going to a doctor. Now it's Los Angeles, so I'm used to dealing with weirdos, and what I've learned about dealing with weirdos is it's not best to try to talk them out of things. You just push forward. Just do what they tell you to do. So I think, all right, this is strange, but whatever. I type it out, I hand it to him. Here you go, sir, and he totters off and says, oh, thanks. And then out of the bushes jumps an entire camera crew because I've just been on Betty White's Off Their Rockers, a hidden camera show, where basically they go around and mess with young people using old people as bait. So you can see why at the writer's workshop, I'm not sure if this is a real thing that's happening, if this homeless guy is really drinking this wine, or if maybe I'm on another hidden camera show. As it turns out, everything is as I expected. He's actually homeless and gross, and eventually I'm able to talk him out of the writer's workshop and get us on our way. The point is this. I'm glad to be somewhere where I can be confident that the girl sitting in the back row is really bored by what I'm saying and is not an actor being paid to look like she's bored with what I'm saying. So thanks for having me. As you can imagine, I'm not here to talk to you about the difference between Los Angeles and Utah. Wouldn't it be weird if I said, like, Montana and just screwed up completely? Like, oh, Montana, and then I just lost all of you suddenly. Anyway, Utah. We're here to talk today about failure. Now, I am well-versed in failing, as you can imagine from the Emperor's introduction. I failed a lot as a professional basketball player. I guess you wouldn't assume that based on me, but in any sporting event or any sort of sporting career, you're going to screw up a lot. There's going to be lost games and all those sorts of things. In my career, I could probably tell you a story about failure that involves me having my kidney and spleen exploded in Indianapolis one time. I could talk to you about the time I went to Los Angeles and we made a TV pilot based on the writings I'd done, and we spent $3.5 million of Fox's money, and then they never aired the pilot. Or I could talk to you about how when NBA 2K7 came out, it's this video game for PlayStation, Xbox, all of that, I was the second worst basketball player on the video game. So I've failed a lot. But the story I'm going to talk to you today, or tell you today, has to do, instead of those things, with Spain. It has to do with basketball. It has to do with money. It has to do with revenge. It has to do with a book. And it has to do with a girl. So let's go back a few years. I've had the career that we talked about. I'm going to stop calling the Emperor because that joke's getting old. We're going to move on to calling him the Dictator. The Dictator mentioned that I played basketball for a bunch of teams. And after that part of my career, I went to training camp with the Minnesota Timberwolves, who share a division with your Utah Jazz. Do any of you care about the Utah Jazz at all? 4 people, all right. That's why the Utah Jazz are bad. They don't have any fans. So I go to training camp with the Minnesota Timberwolves, and after training camp, I have surgery on my right knee, which is a fitting bookend because before training camp, I had surgery on my left knee. I'm at the time like 28 or 29 years old, and I can sort of tell that my career is winding down because that's pretty old for a basketball player. So in March of that year, when my agent calls me and says, do you want to go play for this team in Menorca, Spain? I say, sure. Now the situation with the team in Menorca, Spain is kind of odd. In most European leagues, in basketball and soccer, if you finish in one of the last 2 spots, they send you down to the next division. It's as if Southern Utah, who I hear is not great at basketball, were in danger of being sent to Division II every year if they finished in last place. This team, Menorca, was in last place out of 18 teams, and I was going to be brought over to try to salvage the season and get us all the way up to 3rd to last. That's our goal. Just finish 3rd to last, right? Before I get there, the team has won 7 games in 26 tries and has 8 games left. And conventional wisdom is that we need to win 5 or 6 of these games. So this is going to be a challenge. But I know that if I play well, I will probably kind of resurrect my career and possibly get offered a contract for the next year, which is attractive because I haven't made a lot of money in my basketball career, which my girlfriend who came with me learned yesterday when I talked to Dr. Barry's class. Is that how I should call you?
However you want to do it.
And I think she thought about leaving to go home when she found out how little money I'd actually made. But at any rate, I was thinking, now's the time to capitalize on this sort of fraught career you've had to this point. So I go to Menorca, and I land on this very flat and rocky island. Menorca is one of the Balearic Islands, which are the islands off the coast of the Mediterranean in Spain. The famous ones are Mallorca, which is where British tourists go to get less pale, and Ibiza, which is where young people go to listen to deadmau5 and do cocaine. You've probably heard of one of the two of those. Menorca is the boring one that only has 55,000 people who are crazy about basketball. Each game we had, there were probably 5,000 or 6,000 people selling out this arena, which is kind of amazing. That's like 1/11 of the population. It's as if 200,000 people showed up for a Utah Jazz game, which is not going to happen based on the fan interest I got from this side of the room. So I get to Menorca, and we start winning. We have a little success, and then we have a little more success, and we win enough games such that we've gotten to second to last place. So kudos to us. And as luck would have it, the other team that's in second to last place, this team called Murcia, is our last opponent of the year. So it's all going to come down to one last game. The loser of this game gets sent down to the second division. The winner stays in the first division. Unless, because it's sports, there's always a complicator. There's this team from a town called Valladolid, which if they win, then we're also saved. So basically keep this in mind. We're playing Murcia. Loser's probably going to go down to the second division. If that happens to my team, then I've failed. I'm going to go home and be sad. Unless this team from Valladolid wins, and then both Murcia and Menorca will be okay. I have a couple of extra motivators for this game in Murcia, however. One is that our GM has offered that if we keep the team in the first division, he's going to pay us an extra 10,000 euros, which I'm pretty sure is like $300,000, so that sounds exciting to me. And additionally, Murcia employs a basketball player named Marcus Fizer. Marcus Fizer was the 4th pick in the 2001 draft. He had a pretty stop-and-start career with the Chicago Bulls, but that's not what is particularly important here. He was also my college teammate. Now you might be thinking, oh, he wants to beat his old bud, and that'll be cute. They'll have a tete-a-tete, and maybe Paul will come out on top. But I sort of hated Marcus Fizer when we were in college together, in part because he got all the attention, and I'm not a perfect person. I like to get some attention too, and in part because he was basically an asshole all the time. So I wanted to beat Marcus. I wanted this $460,000 or whatever 10,000 euros is going to be. And I wanted to salvage the career because I really liked basketball. I wanted to help this team win and make me feel good about the fact that I could still play basketball. So we get on an airplane, leave Menorca, go to Barcelona to connect to a flight to Murcia. As you can imagine, because this team is not very good, they don't have a ton of money, so we have long layovers wherever we fly. We also have to carry on our own bags. They won't let us check bags because they're so cheap. So I'm carting my bag into the airport, and across the way in the terminal in the Barcelona airport, I see this really pretty girl. And for reasons that I cannot explain, because you can never explain how these things work, I know that I have to talk to this girl, even though I'm terrified by the prospect of doing so. She's standing in front of a red Ferrari, I think at the time getting her picture taken with people, and then she hands them a coupon. And what I come up with as a way to woo this person is that I walk over to her and I let her say, do you want to have a picture taken with me? And I say, no, I came over to find out if you speak English. And she says, I just asked you that in English, so of course I speak English. And through some miracle, we hit it off. And we talk for a while, and then I go off and do some work. And while I'm away, I write on this atlas that I have. I had carried around this tiny little atlas at the time. And on the page that is Kansas, where I'm from, around the edges I write, hi Anna, it was nice to meet you. My name's Paul, here's my email address. I'd love to talk to you again sometime. Which is pretty romantic, right? It's not bad. I take this back to her. She says, it was pretty great to meet you too, and I think I will email you. And then I get on the airplane and we go to Murcia, and we return to the basketball portion of the story. The romantic portion will return later. We get to the Murcian arena, and it looks a lot like it should look for a last game of the season. We're in Spain on the southeast coast of the country. There are palm trees, and it's hot and kind of dusty, and kids are playing soccer in the plaza, and I'm happy because whatever happens, at least I've gotten our team pretty close, right? Like back when I was lying in a hospital bed with my knee open to the world, I wouldn't have thought that I could have come this far. We go into the gym, and my happiness is destroyed when we promptly go down by 20 points to this team from Murcia, which incidentally is equally bad as we are, so we should not be losing by 20. This is ridiculous. At halftime, we find out that Valladolid, the team that we need to win so that we would both be saved, is losing by 8 points. So things are looking rough for Menorca. We come out in the second half, and the coach puts in our best lineup, which consists of me and another American named Chris, and then these 3 former Yugoslavian dudes who are all insane. We come back, and with 30 seconds to go, we get rid of this 20-point lead entirely when one of the insane Croatians, in this case, makes a jump shot, and we're ahead by 1 point. There's a timeout, and everybody in the court, everybody who's come to watch this battle of complete ineptitude has become aware that one person is going to get the ball, my nemesis, Marcus Fizer. And all I have to do is stop Marcus Fizer one time. We will win the game, save the team. I might get to come back to Spain. I'll make $7 million extra. Things will be good for me. So as Marcus gets the ball at one end of the court, you'll have to bear with me as I go into basketball speak here. He's bringing the ball up the court, and I'm shadowing him, and I'm thinking, I did this every day in practice for 3 years. Surely I can stop him one time. And he goes to his right and then to his left, and by now I know that there's probably only 15 seconds left, and I'm thinking, just 15 seconds, Paul, you can do this. Sure, you're tired. Sure, you've played the previous 19 minutes and 45 seconds on legs that can only be described as made of balsa wood at this point because they're so unstable. But you can do this. With about 12 seconds to go, I feel an impact on my right shoulder, and someone has set a screen on me. That's when one of your players kind of blocks you to help one of his teammates get open. So Marcus now is going away from me, and I can only watch as he pump fakes and gets my teammate Chris in the air, and Chris fouls him, and Marcus has 2 free throws to put his team up by 1. So we stand on the lane, and of course, because Marcus Fizer is a former McDonald's All-American and an NBA draft pick, he makes both the free throws. So now we're done by 1. But there's hope because we have 6 seconds left. So I take the ball out of bounds, and I throw it to our Bosnian point guard, who's easily the craziest of all of the ex-Yugoslavian players. And he takes off up the court, and I run with him, and I'm paying attention because I'm thinking, maybe I'll shoot a 3-pointer and win this game, and then my dad will finally be proud of me. And I get to the 3-point line, and I notice for sure I'm not going to get the ball. The crazy Bosnian is going to shoot. So he goes up for a shot. I'm going to reset so I don't get behind the TV. He goes up for a shot, and I'm headed to the basket because I'm thinking I could get an offensive rebound if he misses this, right? That would mean that I catch the ball off the rim and put it back in at the last second. And again, Dad will be super proud of me. I run down the lane, and I dodge one guy, and then I dodge another guy, and I get a position under the basket. And then I realize